We're going to discuss storytelling and presentation building using Claude Code. Like you see, most of our lightning lessons are going to be around Claude Code because it could do so much and it be like just talking about the theme of things without saying how Claude Code does it is not going to complete the loop. So yeah. So welcome everyone. So just wanted to talk about how do you turn your analysis into presentations that actually move decisions forward, whether say you're presenting to a VP or your product team or your own squad. The principles are going to be the same, right? You basically ensure that like the message of what needs to be done is clear and not just showcasing data and charts. So yeah, that's what we're going to start with. Before we go ahead, I have a quick pop quiz for you all. Sean and I, please look at the chat. I can't look through the chat right now. So I want you to tell me if this is a good slide or a bad slide or an okay slide, we'll not go through the details yet about this slide. We'll get to it slightly towards the end, but I want to know your feedback. What do you think? Good or bad? This is like a revenue overview, a Q3 performance summary. So it's pretty clear what this is. I want to
Alice and Michael say bad. David
get
says barf slide. Oh man. Okay, confusing. Oh, hi says excellent. All right. Amy, Annie, sorry, says terrible, bad. We've got a lot of bads, okays, and a barf. And a
Okay.
mid, yeah, mid.
Okay. That's so interesting to know. I'll be honest, in my career, I've definitely seen a bunch of slides that look like this. But we can move on and talk through what do we have today. So I'm trying this different approach. I want to show you what, like basically go to the end and then come back to the first and go through the topic. So let me stop sharing this part of the screen and I want to show you something that I'll go through today. Man, I have so many of these open. Okay. So let's say this is the deck. This is the deck that we're going through today and understanding uh, how this deck could be. So Hawaii tourism analysis at 2024 to 2025, executive summary for each area. What are the results? What is the methodology and data sources? How is the visitor distribution overview? The pie chart on the left, what does it say? The big island receipts, like all of this stuff. By the way, everything that I share with you today is fully generated by Claude Code with all the stuff that's already in the AI analyst, and I've created few more agents and skills for this lightning lesson per se. Average daily spend, the line chart, what does it show? The daily spend for hotel occupancy, the quarterly revenue by island. You'll see a lot of charts and a lot of text that explains what the chart is about. Okay? What are the key findings and bullet points and what are some recommendations? Okay. And then questions at the end. How do you think about this one? Is it a good slide deck for you all? Before I share, what did a bunch of agents and skills that we created for this actually went and did? Wait, where? Yep. It starts with a title saying, what is the deck about? It has a graph way more clear and talks about what is it. And it goes through like each of these and basically talks about the specific thing and points them to what's happening. Yeah, way less number of slides and way more about the recommendation. So this one is specific to the product and engineering team's presentation that we are going to do. We have a similar, decks for how would you present the same thing to a VP? How would you present the same thing to your own data team, product team that you are in? So yes, this is what we're going to talk through and discuss how we got from a deck that presented a bunch of charts with a lot of text to how we cater it each of these decks into the audience that we are going to share that deck with. Yeah. So a little bit about making whatever I have here. So everything that I shared with you, the different decks, the deck for the product engineering, the deck for VP, the deck for like your team, all of those are different agents and skills that I created. I'm going to share with you a prompt that you could do it in Claude AI. But if you want to build a reusable system, including things like that, we're going to have a bootcamp about it. You could build them yourself based on an open source repo that we already have. You could go to github.com/AI Analyst Lab and /AI Analyst. You get a bunch of these. But everything that Sean's creating, Hi's creating, I'm creating is going to be on top of what is available in the free open source. And all of that is going to be part of our 2-day weekend bootcamp. Please join our Slack community. We have so many people in there already. Where we keep sharing our videos and any questions that you have, all of those you can share with us. Okay, so let's move into the next one. So yeah, what's the problem that we're dealing with here? So data presentations that basically you have months of work, and if a stakeholder asks for an update, I would say they open a blank deck, they think through what are the charts and bullets and what's the methodology of how you've created it. And these are all the findings that I have. And then maybe have a set of some recommendations and probably have questions at the end. That I would say is like a way that you see, like I've seen in my career, a bunch of people that do it this way. And a lot of mentoring from senior data scientists or senior leaders go through and like, hey, what is the story that you're going to go through? So these are some things that you see are problems with the data presentations. Not everyone probably does it. Majorly, I would say people who are new to this world or people who are like younger in their careers, you'd see them definitely do this more and more, right? And what happens when we do things like this? Stakeholders like literally skim through them for 30 seconds and they ask like, what's the bottom line? What do I need to know from this data? I have a bunch of charts and text, but what do I do? So what a bad deck lacks is an opinion and is a narrative that you want to share, that you want to probably lead with it, right? So these are the four checks that you want to make sure that are checked for every presentation. The so what? Can you state your finding in one sentence? It's not a label, it's a finding, right? And what's at stake, right? Does the audience know why they should care? Not why it's interesting to you, but what about it for the audience, right? And this is why it's very important to know who are you presenting, and that the stakes kind of change. If it's a VP, the stakes change. If it's like the product and development team that you work with, it's going to change. If it's your own team, your own data team, or your own analyst team, whoever team you're part of, it's going to change. And then the evidence, the 2-3 data points, not a bunch of charts that you share where it's pretty hard to find the evidence. So the evidence very important. And at the end, what does he ask? Now that you know the so what, you have the states, you have the evidence, what do we do about it? What is the ask from you to the team? Like, what is a clear action or a decision request that you want whoever you're presenting it with, right? So that all of these, if all of these are clear, that's when the data story is fully intact. So if your presentation like fails even one of these, your audience probably get confused, bored, or unsure what to do next, and they maybe just move on. Especially when we are so inundated with meetings and information in this world, it's very important to share insights with an opinion, with a recommendation. So let's have like this quick hack, right? So let's do this check number 1. Read only your titles for every slide. If they tell the story without seeing a single chart, I would say that's probably where your deck works. Let's say revenue overview tells you probably nothing, right? But let's say something like revenue dropped 7% and display ads are the cause. It basically tells you the finding and the magnitude and the culprit. So what we could do is the demo today is basically we go through the deck that I shared with you first and try to look through all these 4 different frameworks that I have and see how can we change the deck so that it actually gives the value. And if you read through the titles of each slide, that basically tells you the story. So if all of this sounds like, let's take this framework and try it on your last deck and maybe read just the titles around after this lightning lesson and see if it sounds like a table of content that tells you the story, or does it sound like, a dump of data and a bunch of charts. That probably helps you as like a check number 1. Okay, so the same checklist, but you'll have different emphasis this when it comes to the type of audience that you deal with, right? So this is what I was trying to get at when I mentioned the different audience in my previous slides. So the checklist is kind of universal, but how you apply it depends on the room that you're in and the presentation that you're sharing with, the audience you're sharing with. For VPs, you probably lead with the decision. They want to say yes or no, and if it's the slides, we need as less information as out there. So if it's going to be a slide deck, it's a 4 to 6 slides. If it's going to be a document, I would say a 1-pager. That's the reason 1-pagers and 2-pagers are probably the most popular ones these days. Even if you have a long document that contains all the details, you probably need a 1-pager that executives spend time on to get the gist of what you're trying to do in the entire doc. Now, coming back to the slides, you basically want it in 4 to 6 slides at the max. So if they want to debate, poke at the methodology, co-own the solution, you can get into some depth. And you could have 6 to 8 slides with some depth for basically your product and eng leads, because they want to understand. I mean, I gave it as an average. Obviously, depending on the amount of time you get for the presentation, you increase or decrease the slides, but the intent of what you need to present for which audience stays the same. VP, you do it at a pretty high level, and product and eng leads go into some depth. And for your own team, whichever team you're, a data science team or a data analyst team or product team, whatever role that you play, you probably want to get into the details way more. But all 3 of them need the so what are the stakes, what is the evidence, and asking the evidence. But the depth and the framing is what will change. In today's demo, I'll go into the product and eng version, basically something that's in between the VP one and your own team one. Okay, so every data story follows 4 beats. Situation, what's happening, right? Set the context and then ensuring that you go into the second one, which is finding what we discovered and your headline, basically. Here's what you did, and then move into the so what. And then you have the implication. Here's what it means for us. And basically talks about the stakes, the revenue, the risk, the opportunity, what do we want to do, and then end with an ask. So most bad decks, probably the one that I shared, they all are about a situation and no finding, implication, or ask. They basically do the work of looking through a bunch of data and putting something together about this is what the data is from its face, but they don't talk about they probably talk about some findings as well. So I'm not saying that's a common situation, but there's less of the implication and less of what does it mean now that you know this. That is probably what misses in most of the presentations. So yeah, and the hardest part of any presentation, the last mile, right? Presentation is the last mile of a work, is basically cutting. We need to be brutal about what we cut. And the hardest part is basically to going through stuff, all the effort that you put in, I'm sure you might have put in hours and hours of effort to get the chart right. And once you understand the so what behind it, it probably maybe you understand that it does not make sense as part of the whole story. And you should be brutal not thinking through how much time you put in to get the charge from the get-go and like cut it. So the whole point is about you, even though you spent so much time, if it doesn't impact the so what, it probably you put it in the appendix. That doesn't mean you fully do not talk about it. Maybe someone asks in the presentation, what is it? Then you probably go to the appendix and like, hey, I've done this work, but it didn't make sense to be part of the whole story. So you basically share the condensed version. And then you probably want to have the type of slides that directly support your finding and strengthen your ask. If it answers an objection, the audience will rise. So this is where the audience component is important. If something that makes sense for your product and engineering team would definitely not probably make sense for the VPs. So you cut it for the VP section, but you put it in for your product and engineering section. And if it also provides the one number that makes the stakes concrete, you probably keep it. But you want to make sure that there is a strong, valid reason for why you want a chart there, a bunch of text there, and you have to reel it back to the the 4-slide framework that we had about the so what are the implications, and what is the ask, and what is the recommendation that you have. Now, what are we going to do with Claude Code? Because I did give a bunch of theory that maybe some of you already know, right? So today, what I built with Claude Code is I built the system where we basically have a deck critique, we have a story extractor, we have an X rescue, we have a slide transformer. I'm not sure if I have time to go through all of this, but let's go through one of them for sure. So I want to move to Claude Code right now and share with you the architecture in a lot more detail. Let me stop sharing my screen. Sean and Hai, any questions so far that we need to address while I keep moving the screens?
I think
No, I
there's
think
really good comments around how people have found helpful in their storytelling and presentation journey. Um, Greg had a couple that's really cool. One is don't confuse me with the facts, and then what's the other one, Greg?
answer first, not striptease.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
Which I
So
feel like is it's like you put in all this work and you really want to walk people through all the steps that you got to there. But so it's like so hard to be like, no, like they don't need to know what I did.
Resist the urge. Yeah.
I know, so hard.
exactly. Wow, I'm so glad that conversation's already happening. So what's happening here? What are you looking at? If you look at my prompt, I asked it. So this on the left, you have this giant set of things that we do to do a lightning lesson to you all. It also incorporates a bunch of things for analytics for builders and also bootcamp stuff. It's huge if we get into the details. But what I'm asking it is to show me an ASCII architecture of what does like a bunch of skills and agents that I built, like regarding today's presentation. So what do you look at? My goal was majorly two things. Yes, we want Claude Code to do our end-to-end systems today, but probably we are not there fully yet, right? So where we want to do the initial, get to understand, get findings from Claude Code, and maybe, put stuff ourselves in a deck and come up with like a big bunch of charts and findings that you throw at Claude Code. Can it take that? Can it take that input? Because it's a lot less work. It is still a lot of work to get the charts and, numbers together, but it's a lot less work from the standpoint of, hey, I'm not going to find what is important myself. Can I give this bunch of all of this data dump with charts to Claude Code, and can it do the parsing for me and get me to a place that's right level for my audience, right? So that was what I was working with as a problem for Claude Code today. So you give a bad deck prompt. For the ease of use, I did a markdown file, but I have a version that works with Google Slides as well. You basically call presentation doctor, that's my agent, that went in, looks at the deck parser, It looks through all the objects, and then the deck critique comes in. So it scores each slide based on the 4 framework that I had: the so what, the stakes, the evidence, and the ask, right? It flags anti-patterns, and it gives the output based on, hey, this deck gets this grade, and this slide gets this grade, and actually adds the critique. Then what happens? Then my story extractor comes in, and it goes in and finds 1 to 3 stories that are buried in the messy content. And it makes the editorial judgment if it's going to be, if either the signal or the noise, what Greg was talking about, right? Is it something that that we need to add, or maybe just remove it? And then it does the grade check. If it's a higher grade, it keeps in the transform. If it's not, then it completes the, it just does the transform if it's a grade B or C. But if it's lower grade, it just does the whole thing all by itself. So yeah, this is the architecture, and this is the number of the components that we have. We have 2 agents and 3 skills and 1 helper file to go through these. This is for the markdown files. But if I want this to work with Google Docs or Google Slides, then I have a different set of agents and skills that do that, because Google Docs, at least for me, have been not as easy to work with, because it sometimes, if you work with it without the agent and skill, it just gets the text and chart on top of each other, and you have to work with it a bunch for formatting. So I have a different set of skills and agents that work to get the Google Doc right and the Google Slide right, right at the right place. But this is for the markdown files in HTML. So yeah, we'll get into depth of how each of these do in our demo, probably at the end, but we're getting close to the time right now. Okay, let me go back to the slide deck again. Sorry for the back and forth, guys. I'm trying to share with you as real time as possible as I built this. Okay, cool. So this is like a mini version of what I shared with you of what are the multiple agents and skills, and how does the system work under the hood. Okay, so a quick plug about whatever I shared with you, the presentation doctor, all of those skills and agents will be part of our bootcamp. And if you've come to our lightning lessons before, it's not just that, it has a lot of other things. It is going to have things about how do you do experiments, how do you do experiments with Claude Code, how do you do visualization with Claude Code. Sean had an amazing session this Wednesday on it. And we have so many other things related to funnels, opportunities, and root cause. And yeah, it's going to be a 2-day boot camp. We have a Claude 20 discount for the people who attend this. It's going to be a weekend intensive first camp. If the timing doesn't work for you guys, you could, look at the recording and join the office hours later that we'll have, so that you ensure that you get a place to ask questions and get answers. You could also attend one of our future boot camps if you, come in for the first boot camp or later, because we think we are going to keep improving every cohort, the analysis, the skills and agents that we have. So if you attend one, you could attend one more boot camp later in the cohorts that come through. Okay, let's move on with the content. So if you remember, I showed you the back deck first, right? It had 14 slides, and it was based on Hawaii tourism data. It looked professional. I'll be honest, I don't know about you guys, I've seen the decks like that before. It was something that was like a new person in my team created. It could be like, something that I've seen people in other teams created that are part of data, or probably something that are, that's not totally uncommon, where people have a chart and what the chart says, what the chart shows, but not what the chart says as part of the deck. So we have something like that we're dealing with as part of this demo. So we'll go through this slide by slide in the Claude Code, but I want to start sharing with you in the presentation right now, but we'll go through this in the Claude Code as well. So the back deck had Hawaii tourism analysis as the title. Does it tell you? Yes, it's a good placeholder or a good prompt probably, but does it tell you details about what is the slide deck that's going to talk about, right? So presentation doctor said that Hawaii tourism analysis is a label, not a finding. After reading the slide, the audience knows the category of data they are about to see. They don't know if tourism is thriving, declining, or needs an intervention, right? So this does not mean probably every slide deck starts with this, with the actual finding. It depends on which area, which audience that you're going to share. But if you're going to share from the intent of, hey, I want to share this data to make a decision, to make a recommendation, you probably want to have something that is telling a story. And then in the bad deck, you'll see that the slides 2 and 3 have a wall of text executive summary. It basically has 8 sentences crammed into one paragraph and a methodology slide, which is definitely not how you want things to look like in your main presentation. And every chart slide reads the chart back to the audience. See, it's something like the pie chart on the left shows the distribution of visitors by island. Yeah, it's kind of obvious that the chart already says that, so you don't need text explaining that at all, right? So the presentation doctor, after going through, would say, every slide shows the same anti-pattern. Chart plus bullets, they narrate the chart. The pie chart shows is the chart's job. So the bullet's job is to say why it matters, not talk about what the chart is already depicting, right? And what about the next few slides? So another example is that the 15 key findings, it had 10 vague recommendations. So this is what the chart said, and the presentation doctor says 14 slides overall. It gave it a grade D, guys. Wow, that's pretty brutal. And it said that 0 and 4 on the checklist, no so what, no stakes, no focused evidence. It has 15 slides, 8 charts, and no ask, right? And the buried story is that the domestic spend dropped 11% and they're 78% of revenue, but it's treated as one of the bullet in slide 15. So it's cool that presentation doctor picked this up from all the bunch of text and charts that are part of this deck. Okay, so let's try to go, what do I do? So I'll try to do this in Claude Code for you to see if we see the same, if we see the same, recommendations but live. Okay. Hi, and Sean, anything in the chat that we want to discuss while I get this?
I don't think so. We've been answering the stuff as they come.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Let me just start sharing.
I think we have some questions around like having Google Slides versions versus PowerPoint versions versus PDF versions.
So maybe I could talk to that a bit before I jump in. So the difference is from the Google Slides and the PowerPoint and all of those versions is you just need for example, because this is not my corporate account, this is my personal account, Google MCP was slightly hard for me to set it up. So I had my skill, some of the context already about my auth, my authentication and all figured out. That was one hurdle that I had to do when I did Google. And the other hurdle was I had to do reviewer agents, a bunch for Google Doc reviewer agent and Google Slides reviewer agent, because Claude Code doesn't do a great job for the first instance, because our goal as part of the bootcamp and as part of lightning lessons is a one-stop prompt for Claude to do it entirely itself, right? So for the markdown, it doesn't need reviewers as much. It does a good job right away. But for Google Slides and Google Docs, I have a Google Slide exporter creator along with reviewer to make sure that I don't go and look at every single line if it's aligned with each other or not. So those, I would say, is the difference between what my experience was with Markdown and Google Slides. But you know what? As the new model comes, I probably think like the next Opus, it's going to just make it a lot more easier for us. This is something that we are working with right now for the current model, but I can see a lot of these just getting better by the day.
I want to tag onto that a little bit, Shravya. I think one of the benefits of like learning how to build agentic systems that are bespoke to your use case is that like she just said, like the models that come out again and again and again are going to make things that are not possible or things that are like kind of annoying easier and easier. Like, where do we store knowledge bases? How do we like make it play well, nice with Google or PowerPoint? Those are like obvious friction points that I'm sure the frontier labs are hearing all the time and are well aware of and are going to solve for. What they're not necessarily going to solve for is like, how do you set this up so it's customized to make you or your stakeholders get exactly what they want? That's what we are focused on really a lot in like our boot camp and also just in our day-to-day jobs. I think like if you're thinking about like where to invest your time, invest less in like those obvious solutions that someone else is going to solve in the next rollout and solve more for like, how do I get this system working on what I care about?
Yeah. And by the way, the bootcamp's going to have all those as part of it. For this presentation, I didn't use the Google Slides one, but for the bootcamp, we are going to have Google Slides reviewer, Google Slides creator, Google Doc creator, Google Slides reviewer, like all of the stuff that I worked with. I actually shared that in my previous experimentation lightning lesson. Please check out previous, lightning lessons and stuff. I actually generated a Google Doc and a Google Slide for my previous lightning lesson. Yeah, you could go to AI analystlab.ai. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe one more to sort of add is there's a leak this morning that Anthropic has a model called Mythos or something that is going to be step change to Opus. So, it's actually like, if we think about it, it's like, well, isn't the models getting smarter and stuff? It's actually more important than ever to get in early to learn how to wire these things up so that when the new model drops, you already know sort of like what the previous one wasn't able to do, and like how do you swap things in and out like quickly, and to be able to like solve the problem immediately instead of figuring out like, oh, like where do I even start in the first place? So something to think about.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for the plugs. Hi. So what do I have here in front of you? You just saw me paste this prompt, and you saw it give us all these details, guys. It's pretty cool. So what did I do? Read the file. So this is a markdown. Like I said, we are dealing with a markdown today. This is a data presentation about Hawaii tourism. Score every slide against the data story checklist. The so what, stakes, high, all of this stuff. For each slide, give the score. By the way, all of this is done by the agent by itself, but I wrote the prompt for you so that you could read it and understand what I'm doing. But if I actually call the agent, it knows all of this context and it's going to do it by itself anyway. But I had it written so that you understand what the agent does. It has all of this context along with a bunch of other context that I fed it. And okay, so then find the buried story. So look at what it did. It kind of went through each slide, and was there a so what? Was there a stakes? Was there evidence? Was there ask? Yes, it gave it 0 by 12. So, I mean, this does not fully mean we want 12 by 12 in all the slides, because not every slide needs to go through it, but at least it needs to have a passing grade probably. So what's wrong? It talks about what is wrong, and it also gives you a fix because it's a doctor, guys. So, and then executive summary. It goes through all of this. It gives the stakes a 1. That's interesting because it gives you also why it gave a 1, because it talks about mentioning the Maui recovery in passing. It talks about what's wrong and what's the fix. And it does the same for slide 3, methodology and data sources. And it talks about what's wrong, what's the fix, and the visitor distribution overview. It goes through all the so what, the stakes, the evidence, and it gave it a 2 by 12. Yes, so for each of them, it keeps going through this for every slide. So basically, you could feed it your slide deck, the context, and it's going to give, this agent's going to run through and give you the score for each of your slide decks. So, and not just that, it also gives the buried story, and it talks about which slide has the buried story, right? It gives an overall grade of D and average score of 2.1 of 12. Yeah. So it went through and did this entire thing itself and went through and found, like, all the nitty-gritty details of where the slide deck got wrong and what could be done better. Okay. So now we're at 12:40. Let me do this. So I'm basically taking it, now take that buried story and rebuild this deck. The audience is product engineering leaders, and I'm giving it all of this stuff. Yeah. So it's basically going through what the presentation doc, because it has the context. We already went through the doctor. It has all the context, and hence it's going and building the slides based on what is identified as a fix and coming through. All of this could be done in one single prompt. You could give it and call the presentation doctor with the story extraction. All of that happens, but I am dividing it into multiple pieces so that makes it easy for you to understand and grok what happens in the background, and we are going through one after the other. So it talks about what the original slide was and what was the verdict, cut entirely, move to appendix, and have this. I'll share with you what the final slide text looked like. Have it handy. It's so hard to look it up there. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So this is the deck that it created. I kind of shared this with you at the start of our presentation. So this is literally something it could create in a Google slide as well. But we're doing it over PDF right now, like a markdown on PDF. It went through, it gave a good title. It actually went through and talked to, if you look at the number of slides, it reduced it down by a lot. Like only until 7 is what is the actual slides. So it basically cut them into multiple things. It added an appendix and it added a bunch of like interesting charts. Like if you look at appendix as well, it removed the all the text and it made even the appendix actually have like talk to the actual finding. And the other thing that it did was pretty interesting was it added the after the key findings, because this is to the product and dev engineering team, it basically added the recommendations. This is what I see is lacking. I have to work with myself. I have to work with my data science team in my past job. A lot was to have recommendations in place. Now that you have this data, what is the hypothesis and what is the experiment you want to run, and what happens if you run it? Like, what's the amount of cost? What is the impact that this, and how confident you are about this? We might not have all this information, but give out as much information as possible, but tell them specifically what should happen now that you know all of these insights. Yeah. So I wanted to leave at least 15 minutes for the Q&A, but yeah, this is what we have. And let me just go back to the deck and conclude it. Okay. So yeah, good deck was insight-driven titles, hypothesis structure, real ask. So it basically, the doctor went and scored through its new deck as well. So it talks about what changed, what was in the bad deck, the title and structure, the titles, and the what is it and what did the good deck incorporate. So yeah, going back to this chart, I think most of you did say this was a bad chart, but some of you said it was mid. So yeah, what do you think about it, especially after knowing all of, does it have the so what? Does it have the asks? Does it have the stakes? It kind of doesn't have any of that in this chart. It just has a bunch of data and it says what the data is. So and it has a super generic title. Yeah, so this is what the presentation doctor would score it as the so what we don't have it stakes in the evidence. So now the slide tells a story. Yeah, with this title, if we have a title like this. Okay, so there are two ways to do this. We could do this in the Claude Web UI as well. I will share this prompt with you. It's even more detailed than what it is here. I could, fit this in my slide deck right now. All the people that have signed up and attended this will get a Claude Web UI prompt to get the same deck ready for your decks that you upload to, Claude Web UI. But you want the even more detailed input that does it end to end in a reusable system. We are going to teach it as part of our bootcamp. And we are going to have all these agents and skills as part of the bootcamp, along with the Google Slides reviewer and Google Slides, Google Doc reviewer. Okay, so this is what you get free today, the deck critique prompt and also the open source repo link and Slack. I mean, this is what we already have, but if you're first time attending us and trying to understand what AI Analyst Lab does, you could look at all of this. You also get the checklist about the data story and how you go about doing good storytelling. Yeah, I think I'm repeating myself, but no wonder repeating. We have like a Claude 20 discount prompt for you guys to get 20% off because you attended this lightning lesson, you signed up for it. It's going to have a bunch of things. In fact, I'm getting, I think we have way more agents than 20 right now based on every lightning lesson, what we're building and what we're building even in general. We'll have all of those shared as part of the bootcamp. Okay, let's go to the Q&A. We have around 14 minutes now.
Oh, one question. Sorry, more bootcamp sales questions. Probably not what you all want to hear. But there was a question around yeah, we had the point around new models coming out. Oh, should I wait till the May bootcamp? So we actually in our you'll see this on our Maven page, but we actually account for this. So we totally get that material improves, the models are going to change really rapidly. So everyone gets one refresher cohort to your registration. If you say take the April cohort, it includes access to join one future cohort of this bootcamp at no additional cost, whether it's May, June, July, each month. And then so you can retake it the next month or a few months later. And then subsequent after one retake, we do a 50% discount. So we'll probably be running this at least monthly while the models are changing so rapidly. Yeah, just want to cover that we realize in our day jobs that the stuff we planned for a couple months ago has already changed so much. We want to make sure that the content we provide for everyone is as fresh as possible too.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I have another analogy where I think the model refreshes is just going to keep coming. And so right now, what we're hoping that everybody gets out of is analogous to learning how to drive a car. So cars will always refresh, but we can't wait forever because that's a constant stream. If you learn how to drive early, you can basically anticipate what's going to be different with every single drop of the model, in that connection. So that's where we're coming from, and the one retake is going to help sort of bridge the two, so that you don't have to do kind of the grunt work of figuring out what exactly is different if there is a model drop in between.
Yeah, I think there's a question about how many skills and agents will be part of the bootcamp that is not part of the free repo yet. So we are changing even what is part of the current repo. There are skills and agents that are part of the current repo that we are changing them every time we try to see there it could be improved. I'm sure you would all do it too, right? If you start running the repo, we could always improve on what we had. So it's going to be improvements of what already is shared. And also we have a bunch of things related to Google Docs, Google Decks, and visualization related agents and skills that we are adding. Sean, Do you want to add anything to that? And it's not just going to be about the new agents and skills that we have in the bootcamp that we'll share with you. It's also majorly about how do you do that yourself? Because this is not, I would say, something that you can't learn to do them yourself. Maybe once you learn it to do it yourself, you're going to come up with even more wonderful things that you could share with the world yourself. So it is also a lot about how to do this in a way, work with Claude Code in a way that's where you don't probably use as many tokens, but and we basically talk through all of those details with you in the bootcamp.
Yeah, I think like just to like make it more concrete, and like we're not selling a product. Like, I don't know. I have this philosophy where it's like products don't fucking matter anymore because everyone's gonna be able to build it. Like it's not this year, it's next year. Like, so like we're not trying to sell a product here. Like there's definitely a bunch of extra stuff in our like repo we'll be showing them. And we've put a lot around together a lot more stuff on like the kind of analytics engineering stuff we'll be talking about. Um, but like Shravya said, it's more actually about you learning how to build this specific to your use case, like we said earlier, and not trying to build the things that the frontier models are going to solve later on, but how do you apply this in your day-to-day job, connect it to your data, build out the things that you care about specific to your job to like automate your work much faster so you earn more time to do more important things. That's kind of like what the boot camp's more about. Build how to build agentic systems, not necessarily like here's a product we're giving you, you get access. You can have the product, it's free. Like I'll probably put a V3 of the product up in a couple of weeks. That's going to have like way more stuff and then like a V4 thing later on. Like that's free for everyone. This is more about like how do you build agentic systems.
So that you could build a V5, guys, like nothing stopping you from building a V5 yourself. Yeah. Awesome.
There's a
So
question around, are there pros and cons or heuristics for deciding whether to use API accounts versus pro accounts, etc.?
Use all right, individually, like use pro account. The API accounts can cost you way more money. So I use it pretty aggressively. I have like the $200 a month one. I did the math on trying to do like switch over to API and I'd be spending like 5 grand or something. So like if you're just building it yourself and you're not building a product for someone else to use, there's not a benefit to going the API route. And if you hit your max on the max account, you can just make another pro account and log out and log back into that one. So that's my tip there, cost wise.
awesome. Ajay mentioned that he's looking forward to the boot camp to take practical steps. Yeah, looking forward to teach you, Ajay, and a bunch of people that are signing up. Yeah, it's pretty exciting that we get to share all of this with you all.
I know. I feel like Anna had another question up here that she's pinged.
Yeah. How might we instruct Claude to save the session output to an MD file? Prompts versus agents versus skill?
It's a good one. Do you want to go for it, Sean?
Yeah, I think so in terms of saving the session output, um yeah, I mean, I usually try and work that into my workflow as much as possible, like within an agent or a skill. Like you could just prompt it, obviously, at the end too. But if it's something I want to do, I know I'll want every time, then I will literally ask you that at the end, like, how do I get you to do this every time at the end of your workflow? And then it exports the output for me. I also like the something else I do is I like to have it journal what it's doing. So even like this isn't the output, like but like what it's reasoning through and when it's thinking, I actually have it stop at certain milestones and write like issues log or a journal so that if like this gets interrupted, I can go back and say like, hey, what were we working on? Or what did we work on, last month even, because that's not going to be in its memory anymore. I want to like go back into that workflow and you can resume your Claude sessions through their interface too. But I find this is nice because I can then be in a context of a new problem and then refer back to the context of an old problem I was solving a while ago rather than resetting all the way back to that context, which is a lot of weird mumbo jumbo I just said, but maybe you get the drift.
Yeah, one thing to what Sean mentioned is what I generally try to look through a lot. If I need, do I need a tool for this workflow, or is it something that I can get away with how Claude is already good at, right? There's so many things that Claude's so good at, especially if you look at other models. Like if you use Sonnet versus Opus, there's a huge difference that Sonnet probably would need more hand-holding, but Opus doesn't. It's already good at it. Maybe some clear prompt would help it get there. But there are definitely some workflows you see that it definitely needs more hand-holding. And only for those workflows, I go and create skills. And if I need this auto, done it fully repeatable, I'd create agents and have it do it in a fully automatic way. But yeah. That's what I try to do in my workflows with Claude Code.
Journal mechanics. So Claude creates and updates daily, weekly MD files and stores them to your. I actually have I have basically Greg. So the journal mechanics, I have like at certain milestones in my work, like if it's basically having to go through the workflow or if I'm building out the system more, whenever it gets to a point where it's going to commit, I have it also like go and write to, it's literally like it's like a YAML file in my repo. It's like journal.yaml and it like kicks off a skill to like go write a journal entry of like everything we just did. And then that way, like later on, it can clear its context. You could definitely like store that elsewhere. Because you might not necessarily want to like I have it like in git ignore, so I'm not gonna like share it with everyone else. But something we've been doing for storing context that we do want to share like that is like putting it into Notion, like a private Notion page, and I can share it with my colleagues, but not everyone. Google Drive could work too. Yeah, I just don't do GitHub because I don't know if I'm pasting something in there that's like stakeholder XYZ, here's their Slack message, and I want you to like iterate on what their ask is. I don't really want like that up in GitHub somewhere, but I do want it stored locally so later on I can be like, hey, think about like what the SVP of product or something wants and like does this align with it? If that makes sense. I wish I could take credit for the journal things, Ajay, but actually one of our actually most junior data scientists on our team thought of that one during a hack week, and I was like, oh, stealing that. That's like the best thing about like when everyone's like working on it together. Like if you guys take the repo that we're working on, you're just gonna like think of stuff that we didn't think of and make it way better than we ever could. So that's like the good thing about like doing this yourself because all that learning gets shared.
Absolutely. I think that's what we are trying to build with our Slack community too. Anything that you find interesting, a workflow, we have few people definitely share in the Slack around, hey, this is what working's better. This is what working's good. So we'd love for you all to come join and talk about what's working for you guys. And we could, learn and share from each other, specifically when things are moving this fast. Yeah. So just wanted to highlight that again. Awesome. Okay, so we are very close to the end of the session. I would say please join the Slack. Please check out. We'll have one more lightning lesson probably before we start the bootcamp. It's going to be about how do you design analysis with Claude Code. Sean's going to do that, or maybe one of us will come back to you guys and share what we learned from Claude Code. Everything that we are doing as part of this lightning lessons and as part of our regular research, we'll keep sharing and adding that to our bootcamp related skills and agents that we share with you as part of the bootcamp. So yeah, look forward to see you all in the Slack and also in the future lightning lessons. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone. Appreciate the time and the good questions. Bye.